Okay, ready or not, here I come. You can hide. Gonna find you and take it slowly. But before we do, we're gonna recap lesson number 28. Boom! Man, that was a smooth transition, wasn't it? So much liquidity, it's almost time to get paid, isn't it? No, lesson 28 was all business is show business, and we were talking about, by the way, thank you so much for joining us. 28 was about the fact that all business is a show business as more and more people have access to the screens on a daily basis, thanks to two amazing individuals, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and of course, conglomerate of all other beautiful co-creators with that wonderful module called Planet Earth, soon to be 2.0 third density edition. Thank you. But people are carrying their screens with them, and hence why we have transitioned ourselves from the business module to the show business module. Everything is the business because we were discussing about the fiat currencies. We were discussing about the super module, so-called global economy, which is largely liquidated by the, liquidated is the wrong term. The liquidity, aka the fluidity of business, is capped by the concept called fiat currency, in which the central banks have monopolies at the behest of the governments, supposedly to print money out of thin air. Most of the time it's the paper money. In Britain it's plastic money. In America it's cotton money. But essentially these are the symbols of value, and their value is derived from the fact that people choose to believe that these symbols are valuable. But that's the only intrinsic value, intrinsic aka objective rather than subjective perceptive it has. And by the way, this is the challenge. I would say that if you would summarize the 80-20 rule for the challenge for the character arc development in terms of transitioning themselves from the zero to superhero, I would say that this is it, that 80% of our brothers and sisters are the co-creators of the module called the Game of Life. They are still not engaged in developing their modules, their mini games, living their life to the fullest, developing their character arcs, aka the learning curves, simply because they have been stuck, because they haven't studied lesson number 5. Don't believe any of it. It's just BS, belief system. And lesson number 9, the art of reframing, that perhaps you've done it unconsciously, or perhaps someone has reframed it for you. But your challenge is that you are identifying the value with the symbol of value. It's a symbol of value. Remember what Mr. Kodzybski has said. The map is not territory. It's just a symbol. So the symbol of value is not the same as intricate value. The intricate value is the 9.1 billion players and the module itself, aka planet Earth. That's intrinsic value. Humans and Earth. That's the real value. The money is a symbol of value. And many of our brothers and sisters, the part of the character arc, that's proverbial inflection point when they convert from zero to superhero, that's when they understand that and they refocus. The focus on your focus lesson 15, they refocus their attention from the symbol of value on the real value, the planet, aka that giant module in which you are co-creating your own mini modules, whether they are charities or multinational organizations or multinational corporations, however you wish to, or investment portfolios or side gigs, whatever you wish to frame your module as. The true value is the play field of the game of life, Mother Earth, and the players themselves. Most of the players are not playing the game yet. Well, maybe they haven't subscribed. Like, we're not going to pressurize them. We respect the freedom index. When they're ready, they will do it out of their own volition. They will join the greatest community available on the planet Earth, the community of the gamers of the game of life. Well, you are here, so come on. What else can we wish from the multiverse slash nature slash God slash fill it in with whatever's consistent with your base operating system script? Lesson number 7. So this was the quick recap that all business is show business because everything is a business, because essentially people are chasing the tokens as the symbols of value, which is nothing wrong with that. As enlightened entrepreneurs, we love the game of developing our character arc, developing the skill set in order to create the greatest value for our fellow human beings. And as we give them great value in the form of content, product, services, investment portfolio, properties, or perhaps combination of all those things, they denominate us with value, which is they give us real value, intrinsic value, the energy, the time, the attention span, and we convert it vis-a-vis the fiat currencies into symbols of value, aka the score points, the tokens of your improvement called money. So nothing wrong with chasing the tokens, but remember, this is just a symbol of value. Never forget that, please. I'm begging you. I know I'm getting very close to violating your freedom. This is your game of life. You play it how you please. But I'm just giving you those tidbits, which are those life hacks, those giant cheat codes in the game of life. So please, please, please bear that in mind. We are transitioning ourselves. Everything is a business because everyone is chasing those tokens, those symbols of value. And now we are transitioning ourselves to the show business because wherever you are, whatever your module is, whatever your industry is, whether it's culture or politics or the business proper or even religions, all of it is just different aspects of giant business module slash system slash mathematical model called global economy and its twin geopolitics, which is once again different names for the same thing, and we're going to be talking about that in the lesson 29. But this is essentially it. All business is show business. It's always about providing two intrinsic values to the audience, customers, clients, investors, however you wish to frame your affiliates. It's one of it is the entertainment. The other one is education, and we're going to be talking more about that because we were talking about the show business being within the framing of your module, that even if it's charity or a social enterprise, it's still a business because we are all playing within that super module called global economy based on fiat currencies. So it's always a business. I appreciate it's very simplistic way of looking at that, but we love simplicity. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Steve Jobs. We want to make it all-inclusive community. We don't care what's your level of financial literacy. We want to give the greatest opportunity of all humans from all diverse continents, all backgrounds. Doesn't matter your biology, doesn't matter your geography, doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, doesn't matter your education. None of it matters to us. For us matters the happiness, freedom, and trust indices. Do you want to have fun? Do you want to co-create with us? That's it. And we need you because the best games are massive multiplayer games. We need everyone. We don't want some, we don't want few, we want them all. We are super greedy. No, joking, we're not greedy at all. Most of us are not. So that was it. Essentially, always pay attention to entertainment and education. Always, when you give something, it should be an excuse for your fellow human beings to choose to believe that they are happier and choose to believe that, yes, I have learned from that content, that product, that there was invaluable information. I am more. So now we're gonna expand the frame of reference, and instead of focusing on our module, we're going to do the miniature, we're going to focus on the character arc, and we're going to focus on the modules, which are the super modules, the composite of all modules, because all the organizations, all institutions, including nation states, all of them are mini games within the game of life. All of them are modules slash systems slash mathematical models. Everything in a game of life is mathematics. So just as we did with our module, we're going to extrapolate it to everyone, including our character arcs. So if you are kind enough to pay attention to the character, to the vision that we have co-created for the lesson 18, the vision that you have a vision, ideally it's two-dimensional picture, it's a meme, you want to be able to encapsulate the culture of your organization and your direction, your mission statement. Yes, you can write it down. Yes, you can do spreadsheets, but ideally you want to use an image, two-dimensional, in the future three-dimensional image. In our vision, if you are kind enough to pay attention, on one hand we have had education, on the other hand we have had co-creation. That's essentially it. When we talk about the business and show business, that's what we really mean. One is education, which is the transfer of information. And remember, like we've talked in previous lessons, that the greatest learners end up being, not necessarily, but the greatest teachers are almost always invariably the greatest learners, because the greatest way to learn is to teach. 90% of the times, it's the fastest way of learning something is when you teach someone else to do it. So we don't differentiate. Same with the greatest givers. The great givers, they grow impact and reputation, and they open the doors that were closed before, and people come with opportunities to them. So especially if you're not placing any emphasis on expectations, the greatest givers happen to be the greatest receivers. So it's always both. It's always simultaneously. It's always concurrently. It's not this or that. It's this and that and that and that, all of it happening at the same time. So this is the same with the vision, that you have education, which is the transfer of energy. You're always sending out, transfer of information. You're always sending out information, and you're always receiving the information. That's education, and all education is a business. You are buying it with time, you are buying it with attention span, or you're buying it with money. Usually it's a combination of all three, but you're always buying and you're always selling. That's business, that's education, that's the transfer of information, that's the educational aspect of your vision. On the other hand, you have co-creation. The co-creation, that's the entertainment value. And as we were talking in a previous lesson, entertainment doesn't necessarily mean that it makes you laugh. Entertainment is engagement. It keeps you occupied. It keeps you focused. It keeps you doing something. It keeps you creating something, whether you're creating the artwork or thumbnails or artwork or apps, or you're building investment portfolio, or whatever it is that you're building. So that's building, that's the transfer of energy, because if you transfer energy in a powerful manner, what you're doing, you're inviting your audiences and your co-creators, your affiliates, your client base, your investors, however you wish to frame your affiliates, you giving them opportunity to raise their vibrational frequency, to increase their happiness index. So wow, I love this content, makes me happy. You makes yourself happy, but this content was a permission slip / convenient excuse for your subconsciousness or your consciousness or the super consciousness and all those three modalities of your consciousness. Lesson number 3. You have that power, but many of you, beloved ones, still choose to believe that no, that's something that happens to me, it's circumstantial. No, happiness, just like love, these are not circumstances, these are choices, but they can be unconscious or superconscious choices. Once you make them conscious, subconscious and superconscious at the same time, then you start regaining the power of your life. And that's kind of what the game of life is, that you're starting to use somebody else's content to realize that you've always had a control over your life. But that's the transfer of energy, that's the co-creation, that's your artistic proclivity. Business, art, at the same time. You transfer information and you receive information, you transfer energy and you receive energy. Energy, emotion, that's the mental representation of your emotion. Your emotional state is a mental representation of your vibrational frequency, aka your energy. Emotion equals energy in motion. No coincidences. Many people call them synchronicities. We can call them intent of the multiverse or God or nature or the people or the AI, however you wish to frame it. But anyway, it's always both, and it's always at the same time. You're always transferring information and you're always transferring emotion / energy at the same time. You do it with your vision, you do it with your module, and you do it with your character arc. If you go back to the lesson 22, if you'll be kind enough to appreciate the artwork, once again, the same thing. We were marrying the tree of life with Tony Busan's mind maps. And there were, on one hand, there were physical, mental, and spiritual skill sets. That's what they were. They were skill set because that's what character arc is. It's the learning curve of developing of the skill set. You choose your icons, you find out the knowledge, you develop the skill set, you develop the modules, you invite the affiliates to co-create with your team the modules that make you the most excited. That's the essence of the game of life, essentially in one sentence. But in terms of character arc, once again, on one side you have had the transfer of information. Oh, JP, how is body the transfer of information? It's the information about nutrition, it's the information about the skill set, aka if you have those. Many people will tell you that cooking is essentially the branch of biology until you become a chef, and then it becomes an art. So that's it. The nutritional value, there's everything you do is thanks to the fact that you feed your wonderful body, and that's why you have the energy to do all those amazing things that you are engaging in right now. So on one hand, you have the transfer of information, on the other hand you have the transfer of energy. So if you look at the character arc, you have had the body, you have technology, and you had the meditation. On the other side, you have had manifestation, you have co-creation again, and lastly you have had the exercise. You entertain your soul, your mind, your body, and you inform yourself and the others of what your body, what your mind, and what your soul are doing. That's character arc. So character arc, then you have the character arcs of all your players, aka your team, one side of your why, the first lesson, the us side. So the composite of all your character arcs, that's your module, and that becomes the storyline of your collective life, the storyline of all your lives together within the framework of that vehicle called your module, whether it's your company, your side gig, your channel, whatever it is that you guys are co-creating. Your vision is where you want to get there, your module is the vehicle, and then you invite all the affiliates. So you take all those composite of character arcs, and you take the composite of all the affiliates which are the closest, and then they have affiliates and they have affiliates, just like human brain. That's essentially what we're doing. We are modeling the character arcs, modules, and then mods merging with mods or affiliating with mods, the ones which are matching with visions and matching with values, which is once again about energy, once again about vibrational frequency. They are aligning together towards the same vision or towards the visions which are aligned in themselves. So all of it is essentially the giant game of synchronizing energy and synchronizing information. Always about the transfer of information, always about the transfer of energy at the same time. They might seem separate, but they're not. And there will be many of brothers and sisters in metaphysical community which will tell you that all energy carries information. So it's always the transfer of both. But you can imagine it now as if you would have the double helix of your physical body. So you have the two intertwined modalities slash narratives slash motives, which are essentially co-creating your elevation from physical to mental to spiritual, or from the zero to superhero character arc. However you wish to frame it, whether it's your character arc or the composite of all character arcs, aka your module, or the co-creation slash alignment of different modules to create the super module, like global economy. When you have the modules which are truly global, when you're starting to have billions of the players of the game of life, that's the super module. That's when you are literally merging all the modules together. That's what global economy and that's what geopolitics is. And most of the people don't play those games because they choose to believe they can't. Oh, I'm just too small. No, you are just playing your game to the fullest, and each and every time you do it in a non-committal fashion, this is an invitation for your fellow gamers. That the fact of the matter is that, you could get the critical mass of 11.11% of people, and you could go to central banks and say, hey guys, if you guys can print the money out of thin air, so can we. And we're going to print the money out of thin air to provide, instead of buying weapons and wars, we're going to buy the schools, we're going to buy housing, and we're going to buy free healthcare for all the people on the planet, including pets. If you can print money out of thin air, so can we. Hey, it's all of it is just BS. It's just the belief systems. So the only limitations that exist within you are the ones that you have superimposed on yourself, or you have allowed someone else to script you with, because perhaps you have been a little bit negligent towards lesson number 12, the externalizing your validation point. Perhaps you have been allowing the other people to give you negative feedback, and perhaps you are still perceiving yourself and your self-worth through the prism of somebody else's negativity bias. There's no judgment, there's no guilt, there's no negativity bias towards someone else looking at themselves from the framing of someone else's negativity bias, aka there's no judgmentalism towards judgment. However, When you're ready, lesson number 14, love, gratitude, and appreciation. And lesson 17, forgiveness. Just let it go. Let go of someone else's negativity bias. Every moment of your life, whether you are co-creating your character arc, you co-creating the modules, or you are aligning different modules to co-create the super module, which might be the vision, lesson number 11, the new Earth 2.0, the planet Earth, in which everyone is invited to max out all their KPIs: happiness, trust, and freedom indices to the max. To live your life to the fullest, physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, and financially. Greatest love, greatest peace, and greatest abundance to all, plus maxed up. So maybe that's where you're heading. You just didn't allow yourself to realize that. This is why it's something. It's a little bit like that meme of the, the snowballing effect. You have a tiny pebble and you throw that tiny pebble, but then it turns into a giant snowball, and eventually the snowball transfers itself into an avalanche. This is the power that you've always had, but you will not activate that power until you convince yourself that you have had it, and until you have the vision that can be aligned with the interests of your fellow co-creators slash your team slash your affiliates, which is just different names for your fellow wonderful, beautiful human beings who are as powerful as you are. Because this is the amazing thing: when you are developing your character arc, developing your module, and maxing out your KPIs, when you're starting to operate from the super consciousness level, when you are in the state of humility and 8 out of 10 happiness, when you are entering the flow and then the other members of the team are entering the flow with you, it's as if you are starting to identify yourself with your module, and eventually with the mods co-creating together, the composite of modules, aka the super modules. It's almost as if you are transitioning yourself from your personal avatar, from the massive multiplayer game, to the strategy game. And in a strategy game, it's not about individuals, it's about the systems, it's about the collective. And that's what module is. It's a system slash mathematical model. So that's what the game of life essentially is. It's the game of reframing, game of loving, game of development. But whatever you do, always pay attention to those two variables: that you're always transferring information and you're always transferring energy at the same time. And our gentle suggestion, once again, it's your game of life, your freedom is sacred. Our gentle suggestion is, whatever you do, whether you play the tiny modules or you medium level modules, or you really aspire to be co-creators of those super modules. And remember, it's not you. You are no more or no less. You're not even equal. You are the super module, just like 9.1 billion of our brothers and sisters who at this moment in time choose to be, I apologize for using that derogatory politically correct term, normie, non-playable characters. I'm so sorry, guys. I do apologize. Please, if we have caused any distress to any of our brothers and sisters, but it's true. I mean, you should be living the game of life to the fullest. You should be happiness, you should be joy, you should be co-creation on a daily basis. And you just wasting your time for somebody else's script and somebody else's negativity. Honestly, guys, if I would have any expectations, perhaps I would invite myself to being a little bit disappointed with you guys, but I don't. You guys are amazing. I love you all. But please don't do that. Remember, you're not giving. Lesson number 13: you don't give up on yourself, you don't give up on your family, you don't give up on community. You give up on the entirety of the planet and everyone who will come after us if you choose to give up. So play the game of life, just have fun, do what you love doing. Every day learn and teach, and every day co-create together. That's essentially it. That's the essence of the game of life. You always, at the end of the day, many of our fellow enlightened entrepreneurs, they ask those two questions: what have I learned today, slash what have I taught today, and say, what have I created and how did it make us feel? Those two questions every single day. At the end of your workflow, it's not about customizing and synchronizing your CRMs and your daily workflows. It's like, what have I learned? What have I taught? And what have we co-created together? And how did it make everyone feel? How was it? Remember the first lesson. How are you feeling? How are you doing? Are you 4 out of 10? Are you 5 out of 10? Are you 6 out of 10? This is how you grow on a daily basis, because you see that growth, you see that manifestation of your own two eyes. Remember, your subconsciousness is a physical being. It needs to see, it needs to feel, it has to be kinesthetic, it has to be visceral, it has to see the results. On planet Earth, it's kind of other way around. Normally you have to choose to believe first and then you manifest, but on planet Earth is like especially if the subconsciousness was stuck in a negativity programming for the extended period of time. It's like, no, show me first, show me, I want to see the proof. The normie non-playable characters are, show me the proof, and the gamers of life like, we are the proof. No, guys, no, please. The memes are becoming too much now. Okay, so this is essentially it. It's not just character arc, it's not just modules, it's not just super modules. Every single day, transfer and reception of it, the exchange of information, exchange of energy. Make sure you have the best information, the one that makes your character arc grow and makes your character arcs of all your co-creators grow, not just your team but your affiliates, because this is how your module grows. Identify yourself with your module. Yes, your body is sacred, your mind is sacred, your super consciousness is sacred, but the idea is the super exciting games of life are when you transition yourself to the super games, aka when you are identifying yourself with your module. So pay attention to the information and pay attention to the co-creation. That's the business and art at the same time, whatever you do on a nanosecond daily basis. Actually, I'll give you a little bit of meme to help you guys. This is a little bit of framing. There's a wonderful picture, which, by the way, it's based on the real life event. I mean, I love Japanese, but this experiment was just super crazy. So essentially, it was about the gentleman who, that was the first edition of Big Brother, and the gentleman was in essentially confined to solitary confinement, and he was watched 24/7, and he was deprived from the normal ways of supporting himself, so he had to be tremendously and immensely inventive to how to survive. And that was the foundational basis for the Truman Show. The Truman Show was essentially that motion picture from Hollywood. I know Hollywood used to produce some of the amazing. I'm that ancient, I know. So the Truman Show, the general gist, with amazing Jim Carrey, incredible actor, and God bless him, incredible acting range. So the gist of it was that he was always followed with the camera crew. That this is kind of how it is when when you really take your co-creation. Especially if you're not going into e-commerce, of development of the apps, of investment portfolios, however, flipping properties remotely, if you will be focusing on co-creation slash influencing slash life flowing full time, if creating content will be your 24/7, the life will start becoming a little bit like the Truman Show. Like if you always imagine that you are always watched, not in a creepy or invasive fashion, but entertaining fashion. That if you can invite yourself to develop that skill set, because remember, it's always entertainment and it's always education at the same time. That's the televisibility factor, that's that X factor. So imagine that you are 24/7. What value do you produce? What do your audiences learn, and how does it make them feel? And from now on, just like in the lesson number 10, become an icon. And just like in the lesson 22, first we were searching for icons in order to attract the right people in our team. Secondly, we were searching for icons because we were identifying which modules we wanted to do, and we were just cross-referencing, has someone created the similar module? So now yet again, find the great icons who are the great teachers and the great entertainers, and learn from them. And it's the teaching to teach, learning to learn. Tony Buzan might be one of those icons I would gently suggest you to consider. That's the learning. And the entertainment, hey, you have so many amazing comedians. I wouldn't even know where to start. You have so many comedians who transitioned into podcasting. You have so many amazing pop stars, so many amazing, whatever it is, your alignment with the highest excitement, you find your own icons. This is your game of life. So the icons which are great teachers slash learners, and the icons who are the great co-creators. And remember, every actor is a director in the making, and every director is secretly an actor. So once again, there is no differentiation. The differentiation is separation, and separation is a misalignment. We don't do misalignment. The trust index is a symbol of alignment. When you are having high trust index, that means that you don't see those artificial divisions. No, no, no. There's no such thing as acting and directing. They are one and the same thing. Just like the transfer of information and transfer of energy happens in the same time. This is the double helix of your life, and it shall be forever. At the end of every day, ask yourself, what have I learned? What have I taught? How did it, what have we co-created? Can I see and feel tangibly what we have built, and how did it make everyone feel? But find those icons, learn from them, copy and paste their behavioral patterns, their mathematical models, their sources of knowledge, their behavioral patterns on a daily basis, their daily habits. Learn to be a great educator and a great entertainer, because especially if you are full-time within the content co-creation sphere, that's what you are. You are educator and entertainer at the same time. That's the televisibility index. More reasons you will have for your audiences to get those endorphin hits, higher the probability that they will stay with you, they will play with you. Because that's what it is. It's entertainment. It is the game of life. But at the same time, it has to be educational. They have to be, after it's all said and done, it's not about having laughs. That's great. But it's about more. It's about eliciting curiosity. It's about provoking questions that they've never asked themselves. It's about allowing them to look at themselves from different perspectives. If you can evoke those emotions that no one else gives them, hey, it's a marketplace. Ultimately, it's the law of supply and demand. If you give them emotions, not just laughter, not just exhilaration, not just joy, more curiosity, awe, sometimes bemusement. But if you differentiate that emotional spectrum, that's great co-creation. If you differentiate that informational spectrum, that's great education slash learning. So you always co-creator, you always educator, and you're always a learner at the same time. There is no separation. It's just singular double. It's a singular genome, but it seems like a separate double helix. That is the genome of your life. That's lesson number 29. I hope you guys have had an amazing time with me today, almost as much as I have had with you. And guys, if you have any specific questions about anything about with regards to the lesson, or you want to revisit something, please remember, I am here for you, not other way around. And this is the essence of co-creating community. I'm your entertainer. Yes, I am your educator, but that's because I'm learning so much from so many people. But ultimately, it's about the entirety of the community. It's not about me. I'm just a host. I'm just making sure that everyone is having fun. If you're not having fun, I'm not doing my job right. But if there's absolutely anything I can do for you guys, you let me know downstairs in the comment section, where we will meet each other. But for the time being, for the rest of your life, if you'll be kind enough to pay attention to your genome. Always business, always education, always information, always energy at the same time. Mwah!